What's happening on November the 5th, Tara?
They are having a cake sale at the high school.
What are you doing, Joseph?
Well, we're making posters for the CCAH cake auction to raise money for the handicapped.
What is CCAH?
It's Cochise County Association for the Handicapped.
Mrs. Phillips, we're coming up this year for our 25th annual cake auction, November the 7th. Can you tell us how that started, the cake auction?
Yes, Louis. Mr. Carl Morris at that time was the head of KSUN, the originator of what was our local radio station at that time. Now, prior to that, Bisbee had been the home of a Bush League baseball team. I have forgotten just what national team they were associated with. But anyway, a small group of men decided to raise some money to promote this Bush League baseball team. They would have what was known then as a radio cake auction. And they earned small amounts of money compared to what we earn nowadays. And it lasted for a while. Now, that folded before too long, but it always stayed in my mind. So I went to see Mr. Morris and asked him if he or the men who had been associated in that effort would mind if we copied them. And he said, goodness, no, they'd be very happy to let us use the idea. Mrs. Morris also chimed in and helped us a great deal. And to my knowledge, we have never missed 1 year since then. That very first year, they sandwiched us in between games of the World Series. Now, of all times. But in between a couple of games, we made $150 with the cakes that were donated that night. So that was the kickoff.
And each year it grew to the extent that we had started at the radio station, KSUN, when Carl Morris had it. And then, see, I had the second cake auction there. Then we outgrew the capacity of the radio station to hold all the entries, the cakes and everything, and the people that attended. So we had to find a larger place. So Nick Pavlovich of CATV came to us and said that he could get it on TV for us through Frank Kovacs at Audiovisual Studio right back of the CATV. I think the building is still there. And I don't know about it, but then Nick was the one that got it started on TV. Then Mr. Kovacs left and went to Tennessee, so that left us without a place to hold a cake auction. Now, through the school board, we were able to get the school cafeteria to hold our auctions in. So Ed Bruner was the one that continued in the high school, in the auditorium. And then I still registered and set up the tables and so forth, and I was there at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, or whenever the cake auction was held, generally on a weekend or on a Saturday.
What motivated, what started the school for the children?
Well, Louis, we had a club of ladies at the Bisbee YWCA, who, by the way, are still operating,
Yeah.
who were looking around for some kind of a civic project, preferably something to help some group. There was the president, I believe, at that time of the club was a Mrs. Wilson Lanius. She had been going down to Douglas to visit a school started down there by Dr. Causey and his wife, a very small school for retarded children. The Causeys had a daughter who was in the school. Mrs. Lanius came back full of enthusiasm and brought her information to me, and we said, now this is probably what our club is looking for. And sure enough, when we presented it to them, they decided wholeheartedly to try to get such an organization started in Bisbee.
Mrs. Phillips, we started, or your efforts started the Little Red Schoolhouse. Can you tell us how the name became?
Yes, we have Mr. Howard Ham
Yes.
to thank for that. Howard is no longer a member of this community, but he's beloved here, and whenever
Yes,
he
he is.
comes back, he meets a lot of his old friends. Howard was pretty much of a carpenter, and he fell in love with the idea and of what we were doing. And we used to have what we called merchants' fairs. Anybody who's lived here over 25 years in Bisbee knows what a merchant's fair used to be. And we always liked to have some of the handiwork of the children shown at the merchant's fair. So Howard told me one time, he said, you know, I could build a little red schoolhouse that we could show at the merchant's fair. We could have the children's work all displayed on the walls, have the teacher there to explain about the work of the school. Well, it caught right on, and Howard did. He built it in a portable fashion, and he painted it bright red. That little school was used a dozen or more times, I'm sure. And then finally, when the merchants' fairs ceased to be, it was stored in Betty Whitehead's mother's garage for many, many years, and it still resides there, I suppose. I'm not sure just where it is at this.
That same structure right now is in use by kids at Mule Mountain Preschool.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it is.
Well, that's good news to me.
The original structure is
That's
still...
wonderful. It's great that it's been preserved. The name caught on,
Yes, it did.
but it originated with Howard.
As a matter of fact, a lot of the checks that we get from the older organizations in the form of donations, the Knights of Columbus, the Serbians, even from Mountain Bell, a lot of those checks come made out to the Little Red Schoolhouse.
My
It's
goodness.
brilliant. Mrs. Phillips, as the children, as maybe as we can say, as they grew and they developed and such like that, they of course became adults. And I believe it was roughly in 1973, 74, where the focus changed to the adult population, and as you say, laws mandated the schools to serve the children. Can you tell us how that transition came?
Well, Louis, I think it was a very gradual thing. At one point in time, different similar organizations to ours, and I suppose this was done through the state, requested that we take some of those children in the Cochise County Association. And I'm not sure, but perhaps some children from Cochise County were sent to other places.
Yes, that's right.
This was to enlighten the children, to broaden their horizons, give them a chance to meet people in a little different atmosphere than they had in their own hometown. It was a way of educating the children. And at one time, I believe we had more out-of-town clients in our work program than we
That's
had
true.
local.
Right. That's
And
true.
I think that's a sign of growth. for the association.
There is a lot of growth from starting back in 1962, the cake auction at $150 to what we've raised recently is very great. The services have greatly expanded. From half a day on Saturdays to one residential facility, a work adjustment and a work activities program. There has been a lot of expansion. It's really heartwarming, sort of, I say, or at least to myself it is. Your efforts and the efforts of the citizens of Bisbee way back in the early 1960s prevented a lot of children from being institutionalized. Maybe not knowing, you also allowed 10 years, 15 years later, people that were institutionalized prior to the early 60s to have a community-based place where they could come back home.
A lot of money is generated by the cake auction for the CCAH. Can you tell me how you see this money being used?
The money has been used in a variety of ways since I've been involved with the agency. Last year was our most successful cake auction. We raised approximately $11,000, which is interesting in light of the fact that Phelps Dodge is no longer here, essentially, and they were one of our biggest contributors. And so the people of Bisbee have come through and helped us raise that enormous amount of money. The money's been utilized last year to help us replace a roof at our residential facility. We discovered that there were almost 12 layers of old roof on the group home, and the weight of all of those roofs was damaging the foundation of the home. So we removed all of the old roofs and replaced the new one. Also, a couple years ago, we used a portion of the money to make a down payment on a new vocational facility, which is on Nackle Highway. Prior to that, the vocational facility was located in the basement of Central School, and it was not the most appropriate place for a vocational facility. Number one, it was a difficult place to get to. It didn't have a lot of visibility, and so we purchased the old Verhelst house on Nackle Highway, and we've now been there for a couple of years. The money also was used for matching funds to purchase a new van, which helps to transport the clients from the residential facility to the workshop, and also to recreational activities such as Special Olympics, and for daily activities such as going to the grocery store. The money's also been used to purchase Christmas gifts for the clients, to purchase clothing for those clients who are unable to afford clothing. Many of the clients received monies through the Department of Economic Security Division of Developmental Disabilities, but some clients do not receive that money, and so we have assisted in that way. The money is also used for staff training. We are allocated so much money through our contract with DES for staff training, and that amount usually is not sufficient, so we've used our funds to help staff be better trained. And that's just a number of ways we've used the money that we've raised over the years.
Okay, now you said last year at the cake auction we raised $11,000. Do you have a goal for this year?
Well, since it's our 25th anniversary, my dream would be to raise $25,000, but I'm not sure that that's a realistic goal. And so every year we try to increase by at least 1,000. So I would hope that this year we would earn at least 12,000 at the cake auction.
We presently are at our physical location for our Work Adjustment and Work Activity Center. We're located at 200 Nackle Highway. One of the goals of Cochise County Association for the Handicapped is to provide meaningful and diversified work to the people that we serve. One of our activities is aluminum can recycling. The people are responsible for sorting the aluminum, smashing the aluminum using a jig, preparing the aluminum for shipment. The clients are paid a piece rate based on time studies as dictated by the United States Department of Labor. Roughly right now, 1 penny per can is paid to the people. Another activity that we are involved in is in-home and in-house maintenance of our existing buildings. We do janitorial work in-house, and we of course perform outdoor yard work. Another one of our activities is Venetian blind renovation. We pick up the Venetian blinds. The clients are responsible for assessing the needed repairs. The blinds are cleaned, new tape is installed, new string, and the hardware is lubed for maintenance. The blinds are reassembled and returned to the owner, generally installed in-house. Some of our customers in that area are the Bisbee Public Schools, Cochise County governments, and various customers in the community.